We have our one solo performer next up on the stage. It takes some gumption and commitment. Jay Collins has a passion for education, both in eSports, the gaming world, as well as the education, particularly as it applies to high school students, the younger demographic. We're focused on 18 to 34 so much in this endeavor. What about the emerging kids in this? Here he is from Liminal eSports, Jay Collins, the founder, chief executive officer of Liminal. Jay.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? All right, cool. I am Jay Collins. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm here to tell you a bunch of stories. Probably not what you were expecting, but hey, guess what? I'm on stage, so that's what we're going to go with. Okay, and that's all my stuff, so that you can remember it. Okay, so I have a small business. I have a startup. It's an eSports research and development firm funded by the Department of Education, which looks into evaluating schools and library eSports programs to see if they're effective. Because there's lots of claims being made about eSports and education right now. Some of them are true, some of them are not. We should probably do some research on it. So that's that. But I'm also, and this is most of what I'm going to talk about today, I'm also a teacher. So I'm a high school teacher outside of Cleveland at a school called Halfway Brown. It is an all-girls school, independent, and it'll factor into some of the stories a little bit later. But I want to take you way back, way back, to see if you remember either of these people. Don't all jump up at once. I know a lot of things have happened since then. So I used to work for the U.S. Department of Education, and this guy, anybody remember him? Okay, all right, 1 or 2 people. That's all I'm asking for this class. That's fine. So this is U.S. Secretary of Education John King. He was the last serving Secretary of Education in the Obama administration. He was my boss's boss. And the guy next to him, if you remember, that's former President Obama, and he was my boss's boss's boss. And I bet you probably didn't know that we were talking about eSports, but we were. So even back then. Why were we talking about eSports? Well, backing up again, my focus at the Department of Education was to talk about game-based education. Usually what I have to do is explain what game-based education is, but I think most of you probably already get that, right? Because you play games and you learn. Gamers get that. People who don't game often don't. But like literally, how could you win a game if you never learned, right? Like you're learning at the very least, low bar here, learning how to play the game. And when you see kids playing games, you can see it on their faces, right? They're learning right there. They're learning skills, they're learning emotions, they're learning how to navigate social structures. So I'm not going to give you that lecture. That's okay. But I will say that we started talking about eSports specifically. Oh, yeah. I was going to say this little girl, because I taught this little girl how to make games. And one of the reasons why I love talking about game-based education is because for some students, games are the way that they connect, right? Maybe they're not great test takers. Maybe they've got a little bit too much attitude, like this girl. Or maybe they're antsy, right? Like, I'm going to keep pacing on this stage because I'm antsy, and that's not so great in the classroom sometimes, but it's good for games. And so the idea that maybe we were leaving some of our students behind by not recognizing what they could accomplish in games is a powerful one, and one that I advocated for, and one that we advocated for at the U.S. Department of Education while I was there, under the Obama and Trump administration. Okay, but we really seriously started talking about eSports when all this started happening. You can blame Robert Morris College because they're the first one to offer an eSports scholarship, right? And when you start talking about pumping money to an education system, particularly into universities and colleges, you start talking about equity issues. And we started seeing not just one eSports scholarship, not just 2, but doubling in the universities about every 6 months. And this was a lot of money. And when you start talking about money in education, you're starting to talk about who's allowed to go to college, who gets money to go to college, who is the college going to hire, what kind of buildings are these colleges going to build? And that, again, all stems from equity considerations. At least we should be a little bit mindful of it. And what we started seeing in the very early advertising around this was the same thing, again and again and again. You're not seeing the pattern. The pattern is we were seeing lots of bros. And bros are fine. I love bros. Some of my best friends are bros, right? But we need to have a conversation. We need to talk. We're pumping a bunch of money into a system for access to education, and it's primarily targeting one small group. It doesn't matter what that group is, right? We need to ask ourselves some questions about that group. Now, the naive response to this, well, that's because girls don't play games. But as we know, there are women in esports, and as we know, there are girls in games too. In fact, when we look at just general gaming, the Entertainment Software Association industry lobby for video games says it's about even, right? It's about even. I'm not going to ask you this question because I already know the answers, but are esports scholarships even right now? Not so much. So this is the part in the conversation where I started talking about Die Hard. Die Hard is a great movie. Come with me on this for a little bit. Die Hard is a great movie. It has all the things that you might want in a movie. It's got action, it's got suspense, it's got someone throwing Alan Rickman out of the window through the air, right? It's a pretty great movie. One thing that Die Hard does not have, anybody know? You can shout out, it's all right. I've got classes of students. Esports, factually correct, not the answer I was looking for. Thank you very much. Anybody else? What's that? A phone? It does have phones in it. Yeah, that was. I did have this honest to goodness conversation with students because they did not understand what I meant when I said phone book. They were like, "What kind of a book? Is it like a phone that works like a book?" Anyways, it doesn't have women. It doesn't have a whole lot of women in it. It has a couple women. Sure. And it also doesn't have a whole lot of women who are fans of it. Now again, Die Hard is a great movie. Die Hard should exist. Many people think Die Hard is the best movie ever, right? There you go. All right. But the thing is, I love that a movie like Die Hard exists, but there starts to be a problem when we have a conversation and we say, only people who like Die Hard are eligible for this money. Only people who know all of the lines from Die Hard and can quote it and show up and have watched it 50 times, they're the only ones who can come over here and get scholarships. I think you see the analogy that I'm going with here, but it'll become more clear in a minute if you're not up to speed yet. Okay, so usually the responsiveness in the esports world, there's the analogy, usually the responsiveness in the esports world is, gosh, there's no girls playing our game right now. What do? I know we do outreach to the girls because the girls just don't get us. And really they need to. And I'm going to put to you that that is the same thing as trying to convince women, which as you can see here statistically, do not believe that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I would say that this is the same thing as going around a school trying to find all of the girls and trying to convince them that yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It's not going to work. All right, let it go. All right. So when you see things like this, we start to have some really serious equity conversations. Now, again, I'm an optimist. I was thinking all throughout the Department of Education that esports are what we need. Esports are what we need in schools. And so I tried it. Like I said, I'm a teacher. Yes, this is my school. Yes, it is fancy, and especially for Ohio. And I love Ohio. I'm from Ohio. But I was like, whoa, this is next level. So it is an all-girls school in Ohio. It is consistently ranked one of the top all-girls schools in Ohio as well as in the nation. Is consistently ranked as #1 or #2 independent school. It has everything that you could ask for. Awesome faculty, awesome facilities. It was easy street, right? And I have a wealth of education experience. You don't have to believe me on that, but we'll go for it with the program here. But I mean, I've worked, I've taught in a lot of different places, and I'm the person, right? I mean, at least for President Obama and President Trump, I was the person to ask about esports and education. And so I came here and I said, I have everything that I need to do esports, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove that this works. And I'm not going to lie to you, I made the Die Hard mistake. Because I went in there and I found the best possible high school esports program, and I picked the most popular high school, I don't know if this is true, but what at the time appeared to be the most popular high school esports title. What do you think? League of Legends. Right? I said, best curriculum, best organization, best game. We have 400 upper school students in our class. 400 girl and gender queer students. And I put this up and I advertised it for about a month. And I had exactly 2 people show up. I had convinced the administration. They had given me rooms. They had given me computers. They had given me everything. They trusted me. I was from the Department of Education, right? How could I get this wrong? And then nobody showed up and they said, guess girls don't play games. It's like, oh, not this again. And I knew it was a lie, right? Because there they are. These are my students. They play games. You know how I know it? I teach them. I teach them game design. I teach them computer science. I teach them how to make games. They talk to me about games. Games are some of their lives, right? None of them showed up. I put up all of my Die Hard posters and nobody showed up for my movie night. And it was a little disappointing. So you might already know some of these stats, and these are a couple years old, but it's a rather large sample size on the survey. I think it was about 1,600. 7% of first-person shooter players tend to identify as female, 10% of mobile players, 6% for racing games, 2% for sports games. And so some of these high school esports leagues out there that are putting out sports games, lots of people love them. They tackle some really great gameplay for certain people. You bring it into my school, you're leaving 98% of our students behind. It's not okay. Okay? That's not okay to say it's going to be applying to only 2% of the kids that I see every day, the kids who already love games. So, I did what any competent, slightly crazy person, you might have picked up on both of those things so far. I did what any slightly competent, slightly crazy person would do. I started my own league. I went out and I looked. I tried to find other things that would work for the students that I had, because I had students and they were asking me. I couldn't find it. So I started my own league. I put together a panel of experts, and I said, you know what? Not everybody likes to play the same game, so let's play lots of games. And we played not one game, not two games, we played 3 different games. We connected them together throughout the season. Your wins in one counted towards your wins in the other. It was a triathlon, right? We've been doing this in sports for a long time. And instead of doing the thing where I advertised that certain other game for a month and got 2 people to show up, I advertised this for a week and I got 10 students right out the gate. Here they are. So this was us at our championship event. Yes, we hosted a championship event. We hosted 8 other schools and libraries there. And you don't know their stories, but I do because I'm their teacher and I care about them. And you'll see some of these students up here. One of them came in as a 9th grade transfer student. She didn't have a whole lot of friends. She played games on her phone by herself in a corner. And then she came out here and she became one of the captains of our team. Just last week, she was pulling in 30 students and faculty members into our room, which is now too small for our gaming program because there's so many girl gamers. She pulled them all in. They were sitting on top of tables. They were sitting under tables. They were, frankly, causing a fire hazard. And they all had come because she asked them to come play an esports tournament. One of these other girls, she didn't say anything for the first couple of weeks. Didn't know what was going on. That's okay. I don't ask. She came to play games. That's fine. I'm not going to force her to talk. She doesn't want to talk. By the time that we got to the championship, she self-opted to be the announcer for it. She ran 2 hours of live commentary for our live stream, which I did not even want to do. And she was chasing down students from other schools to interview them with an iPad. She had asked me for profiles of the other players before we even got to that point, right? Why? Because of esports. Because it works. Because it wasn't that crazy, right? One of my other students, she didn't have any computer science background. She was in my computer science 101 course where we were learning how to click things and open stuff, right? Here she is running a 15-stream NVI configuration on Phoenix, partially for which she laid wires. Over that summer, she got an IT internship, and now she's in my AP computer science class. Why? Because of these points. Okay, it works. But if I'd stuck with the model that we had, the only model that we'd been given, none of these kids would have gotten any of that. None of these kids would have felt connected to our school because of any of that. Because they would have said, I guess esports isn't for me. And the adults in the room would have said, yeah, esports aren't for girls. At an all-girls school. Now, it's not just our school. This is the Cleveland Public Library's team. They were a partner for us throughout the year. And same sort of conversations, right? These students would come in after school to the library to play games, to make friends, to have fun. And the number one question that I've been getting from the Cleveland Public Library, outside of where are those books that you rented, has been, when is the league going to start again? Because these kids are asking every single day. So here are the 2 championship teams. I told you I was going to tell a lot of stories, and I'm trying to follow up on that. Here are the two championship teams. The champion team was from rural Ohio, and I say rural twice because, like, for real, it's rural. And they are a high poverty district, over 50% free and reduced price lunch, and they will crush you at Rocket League. Like, I'm not even going near that. The number 2 team, huge urban school, focuses on art, underperforming. Fewer than 5% of their students meet state math standards. But they came up here and they performed. They will crush you at Hearthstone. And that was one of the beauties of this, seeing the different skills and the different abilities and the different interests emerge from, guess what, different students. And one other thing I didn't expect to show up were the parents. And when I mean they showed up, I mean they showed up, right? Like, so we ran this championship, and I was over there throwing a tablecloth on top of the table, and a bus showed up. I'm not even kidding, a bus full of parents. There were about 40 or 50 of them, and they all came out, and it was an hour early. And I said, what am I going to do with 40 parents? And then for an hour before the season started, I put them in a corner, they talked amongst themselves. They were okay. But when I was listening to them, they were saying, this is my kid? They're in a championship? This is their school? This is what school can look like? These are parents who are having conversations, hard conversations, and if you're a parent, you know this too. They're having hard conversations about why you go to school and what you get out of it. And the answer was simple for these folks, right? I polled all of these teams as we were doing it. The answer was they're getting out of this teamwork and leadership and grit and perseverance and tenacity, right? And school spirit. They care about coming to school again. That, to me, is worth a lot. This was our first win. There weren't any high fives. You can tell by the color of their faces that's mostly not touched up. This was an emotional moment, right? This means something to them. And I had to ask myself at the end of this, because I told you I came in here with a real loyalty purpose. I just wanted to prove that it worked, and it did. And then I was kind of like, okay, I'm out now, right? But I can't now, because look at these. I don't know what to do with that. So at the time, we also didn't know that we were making history. We are the first ever all-girls school to have an eSports team. It's 2019. We're the first ones. Y'all, what's going on here, right? There are so many other high schools with eSports teams, and this is the first time it's hit an all-girls school. It's because, sorry to keep bringing it up, it's because of the diehard listeners. So I did what I thought that any competent and slightly crazy person would do. This is new information. I made a nonprofit. So this is new information. This is an announcement. This isn't online yet. Well, technically it is online right now. We made a nonprofit to kind of figure this out a little bit more. And we pulled in some of the partners from folks that I've worked with in my career, including Games for Change. It's the national conference, leading conference on games and education, as well as ISTE, one of the largest ed tech conferences. We're going to be supporting us on this, and we're going to run our own league, and we're going to make it a little bit bigger, and we're going to call it the Mischief League, because guess what? I think we might need a little bit of mischief to shake up high school esports, because I think that high school esports can be a place for everyone. I don't think it's bad what we have now. I think it's amazing. That's why I believe in it. But I think it can be more, and I think we can have it in more schools, and I think we can have more students there. And I think that the 98% of my students who don't play a particular game should have an opportunity the same way that all these other schools have opportunities. So that's it. That's my spiel. But I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to the stories of my students, because if I wasn't here talking about them, you wouldn't know any of this. I think that's meaningful to them. So I don't know if I have time for questions, but I'm happy to answer questions.
How do you, the through line between getting students interested in this, maybe even getting them interested in school, coming into the building, performing, teamwork, leadership, how do you see that translated into higher grades for certain students, where it then becomes a student performance win,
yeah,
as well as other types of wins you might have?
So can esports lead to higher grades? So that's one of the things that my small business is researching right now. And we should have some tools that can help solve that problem by the spring. But to be honest, I'm a computer scientist, right? I'm skeptical about grades sometimes because, there are biases, inherent biases in the systems that we make. That's not news. What I like to think of instead is opportunities. What kind of opportunities can esports lead to? Because I think that those are tangible and less finicky. So the opportunities that I think that come out of esports, yes, there are a ton of intangibles that come out of it, but I think one of the strongest and one of them that is most often left on the table when it comes to high school esports is location, community. And so in the league that we have, we're not playing against a team in New York or a team in California or a team in Oregon. We're playing against the school that's across the street, right? And the library that's down the street. And for each of these leagues that we start in different locations, we're having a community anchor. Often the community anchor will be a university. And so it will be a university with a hub of schools talking about how games can lead to further interest in STEM. What does that mean? That makes connections between schools. The number one request that I got out of this league from the students, by the way, was they wanted a Discord to talk to the other students, right? And to see kids who are like growing up across the street from cows and kids who are growing up across the street from a traffic light say, I just want to know that other person better. That to me was a huge opportunity to build a stronger community. Other questions?
What was that third game? Hearthstone, Rocket League game?
Hearthstone, Rocket League, and Here's the Storm, which is a weird one, right? And I emailed Blizzard, and I sent them some of these pictures, and I'm like, hey y'all, we're making history, and I didn't get a response back. Okay, whatever, whatever. But yeah, some of the reasons why I used Heroes of the Storm, I know that they dropped support for it, but it matches in faster, which was better for our kids. The curve to learn it was faster, and there were more positive representations of women. I've seen some studies out there that say like, hey, girls feel uncomfortable in esports spaces, and it really makes me cringe because I want to know more about that study. What game were they playing? How can you not tell me what game they were playing, right? Like if you see a character in the game pole dancing, yeah, then maybe you might not feel comfortable with esports, right? Or if you walk into a room and it's 20 guys and it's just you, then yeah, maybe you might not feel comfortable with that. We had a really positive reaction to Heroes of the Storm. They were not thrilled that there was no further support for it, but we had less of a good reaction with Hearthstone because there were some kids that were way too good at Hearthstone. And so at the high school level, we're not the pro level, right? So they're like, they saw somebody come in with their shiny cards and the little mode animations, and they're like, I don't even need to play. I know where this is going to go. Okay, one or two more? Yeah. So the question was, how young? And this is a question I used to get asked a lot at the Office of Ed Tech because we talk about Ed Tech policy for all students. I think that the model in esports so far has been pro level, trickling down to university level, trickling down to high school level, trickling down to middle school level. And I think that's wrong. Because I think that professional gamers are getting different things than 14-year-olds. I don't know, I'm going to be out on a limb on that. But I think that there are different models that work at the high school level, and I think that there are models that can work at the middle school level as well. At the lower school level, I start to get more reservations, and that's because one of the recommendations we always made at the Department of Education, particularly during the Obama era, was that if a kid is using technology, that's not really the problem, right? Screen time really isn't the problem. The problem is the isolation. So if you are using technology and you're with an adult, while you're doing it, that can lead to a wonderful thing. And so I have small children myself, many small children actually, and 3 actually, and we have screens, and sometimes we use screens for longer than an hour against American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations. Why do we do this? Sometimes we watch the Nutcracker and we reenact dance moves. That to me doesn't feel like a screen time sort of situation. Sometimes we use screens to go out and do citizen science, taking pictures of frogs and then emailing them into science organizations. That to me doesn't feel like a kid watching Netflix. So I think really it comes down to, especially at the middle and lower school levels, that we're looking at how we're integrating technology, what kind of adult sports we have, and what are the games that we play. I think with the people over here, that means that time's up. But thank you so much. You're welcome to contact me.